You're not really gonna jump, are you? Jesus Christ, Anna, I thought it was just a game. It's not funny anymore.
I'll meet you there.
One moment she'd been flying, in unison with the cloud of dark birds who'd taken wing from a nearby pine. The next moment she was just a memory. Several weeks before, Anna had crept into his room to tell him about a nightmare she'd had. He could tell she'd been crying, the memory of it clear and bright in her mind, like always.
It was real, Chris. I really went somewhere.
Anna was always going somewhere. Chris figured she'd lived more in make-believe worlds than she had her own. That's why their mother called her the Fairy Queen. But she didn't want to rule some other kingdom. She wanted to escape.
It was all darkness, full of shadows. But when you're there, you're darkness too. You're part of everything. There was something else there too, hiding and watching.
That's the thing. I don't want to forget this time. I want to go back. Go back where, Anna?
The other side of night.
Chris forgot all about Anna's nightmare until she mentioned it again a couple days later. Dark circles had begun to form underneath her eyes, marring her perfect porcelain skin.
I met the faceless man last night. He told me how to get back there, to the place full of shadows.
You're taking this too far, Anna. You're scaring me.
In the fading light of day, jump from a high place into the bitter cold. I promise I will catch you.
It was just a dream.
A dream.
What are you doing up there? I'm gonna tell Melinda.
It's just a game, silly. Besides, if I fall and the faceless man doesn't catch me, the guardian will.
Over the next 2 weeks, Chris watched the light fade from his sister's eyes. It was a slow, steady drain, like water through a paper filter. The kind of slow demise that's only supposed to happen to game show hosts and Alzheimer's patients. Anna abandoned her crayons and paints, no longer content with her wax and paper worlds. Instead, she'd go up to the roof whenever she could get away with it, and would stare out past the edge of the roof, no longer bound to the earth like a walking column of dust and ash. There was something waiting for her out there, something Chris couldn't see or understand. The day of the snowstorm. Anna went to her room and packed up all her paints, shoving them into a box under the bed. Her favorite stuffed animals were tucked underneath the covers. Then the girl, who was little more than a twig, pried open the large dormer window, climbed onto the roof, and jumped from the high place into the biting cold on her way to meet the faceless man. For the weeks and months, even years that followed, Chris's home no longer felt like his own. His family still lived there. If living can be existing, waiting, coping, but the endless flood of professionals made it feel foreign, poisoned. One day after Anna disappeared, and 3 days before Christmas, the first investigator arrived. Years later, Chris still remembered his smell, stale but comforting, like the yellowed pages of a paperback, and fishy too. The latter made perfect sense when he noticed the rod leaning out the back window of the investigator's beat-up truck one day. The investigator wore the familiar mask of disbelief when he asked Chris what happened to Anna, his eyes squinting. The creased corners of his mouth downturned, just like Chris's parents had the day before and the psychiatrist would a week later. And he told him the same thing he told them. Anna had gone to meet the faceless man.
How many times did Anna go to the roof before she fell? Why didn't you tell your parents about the dreams when they started?
Chris opened up to the psychiatrist, a friend of his dad who'd agreed to come to the house to talk to him right there in his dad's study where the dormer window was.
You're in shock, and I know you feel guilty. Hopefully I can help you deal with the loss of your sister, but it's going to take some time.
Chris met with the psychiatrist for what felt like years afterwards. The conversations they had were never enough to stave off the guilt and worry that gnawed at his gut like a hungry animal. One day she told him she'd done all she could do, that she hoped he could go on and live a normal life. His sister would always be a part of him, she said, no matter where she was or what had happened to her. He agreed, shaking his head and wiping the tears away for the millionth time. But a singular thought still stuck in his mind. Where did Anna go on the day of his 18th birthday? Chris stood on the outside ledge of the bridge and watched the choppy water surge and churn hundreds of feet below. Behind him, he could hear sirens and the crackle of police radios.
Chris, honey, please come down.
Like you were there for Anna? The police stopped looking for her after a week. A fucking week. I told you where she was, but no one gave a shit about her. Now I'm going to find her.
Chris, honey, we've talked about this. Your sister died 6 years ago. Please come back.
Bullshit. I saw her jump. She disappeared into thin air to the place full of shadows.
She's dead. We buried her about 4 miles away in our plot in the city cemetery. If you climb back up here, I'll take you there. We can go right now.
How did she die then?
You were on the roof, Chris.
Christian, no.
No, I'm done with this. Letting him forget obviously hasn't helped. He needs to hear the truth.
She had nightmares. She liked to pretend she was somewhere else. She wanted to go to the other side of the night to meet the faceless man.
That was you, Chris. Don't you remember? Anna was a gymnast, an athlete. You're the one who liked to paint. Your mother called you the Goblin King, remember? You had terrible nightmares. Sometimes when we'd go to wake Anna up, we'd find you in her bed.
Chris closed his eyes as the raging current of memory crashed into his mind. Suddenly, he was 12 again. He was on the rooftop with his sister, inching along its peak as the snow fell around them. Everything was so white, like blank paper.
I'm scared, Chris. Can we go back now?
But he wouldn't let her. He guided her toward the edge as the snow flurries whipped around her face. She slipped and almost fell, but he caught her, ignoring her whimpers.
It's just a game. We'll go back once we've reached the edge.
His dad was right. It was he who'd met the faceless man in the place that was full of shadows. He'd told Chris that if he jumped from a high place into the biting cold, he'd catch him. Chris wanted to go back. It was all he could think about, but he was too scared to go alone. Anna tried to turn around to make her way back, but he held her in place. The words were his, not hers.
I'll meet you there.
And then he pushed her.